Okay, Rusty, we're streaming live.
Okay,
Mute your.
mute myself.
Or if you were going to talk to someone. So I'm going to start letting people in. I'm going to start letting people in. So I'm going to mute myself and just let people in. I think.
I thought we were they're just having them come on. Becca?
Yes.
Is that right? And I chatted in the chat with Kara that you have to make her host so she can share her screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I was putting YouTube up on my phone so I could
that's
see.
okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Gail and I will have a little PowerPoint to share about our services.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Is that right? And I chatted in the chat with Kara. Share her screen. Where is everybody?
I don't know.
This is Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Becca, were you on last year?
Yeah, I was. We have a few people still coming in, so maybe give it a couple more minutes and we
Okay.
can get started.
Sounds good.
Okay, I will just keep an eye on the waiting room and let people in. But we can get started. So I just want to say welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending our 15th annual community forum. I'm Becca. I'm going to be helping Rusty with some of this. And I just wanted to remind everyone, if you need, since we're a small enough group, you can unmute yourself by selecting the little microphone. If you want your video on and off, you can control that by the video down on the left-hand corner of the screen. Also, there's a raise hand option. I will be monitoring that as well as the chat box. So, and I'll be monitoring YouTube as well. So bear with me if I don't get exactly to your question, but we shall be good. So Rusty, I will stop sharing and let you get going.
All right, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us for this community forum. My name is Rusty May Squires and I'm a peer counselor here at the agency. I've been here doing this since 2013. Please accept any apologies for any tech issues. Becca and Kelly worked really hard to get this up and going. And like she said, use the chat box for any questions. So I'd like to ask now if you would like to, where you're viewing from, you can put that in the chat box and anybody on YouTube can do that as well. So the purpose of the community forum, it provides an opportunity for consumers and community to learn about our services and changes within our agency, and it allows members to provide feedback about our services and how we can improve what we do and make how we can better serve you. Pend Oreille County Counseling Services continually strives to improve the quality of our services despite COVID. We care about our consumers and appreciate their contributions toward our efforts to improve the lives of our consumers. Our mission statement is making a difference with compassion, integrity, and hope, and we stand by that statement. So we have a lot of things to cover. So let's get started. We're also having a raffle. So if you want to put your name and contact information in the chat, Becca will keep track of that. And we will contact you if you win. So now we are up. Is Anna on board? Oh, hi, Anna. Actually, Becca, prevention is first to talk about.
Okay, My name's Becca, as I've already introduced myself. I am new to the prevention team. Pend Oreille County has 3 prevention teams, or 3 coalitions, I should say. In Newport, we have Beverly who runs that. I am the coordinator for Cusick, and then we have a new coordinator in Selkirk, and her name is Helena. Prevention, kind of like a brief overview summary, is our programs address identified risk factors in the Pend Oreille County strategic plan for substance abuse prevention, intervention, treatment, and aftercare services. We focus on youth and include parent-adult involvement and participation. Prevention consists of programs, activities, and science-based best practices focused on reducing underage alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use in our community and county. As of right now, we're still pretty much primarily Zoom, but hoping to get back to doing some in-person things depending on how COVID goes. And then, of course, we have Carrie McKinley, who is the head of our prevention, and she's just wonderful. And if you have any questions, you can always call us at 509-447-5651 and ask for Carrie.
Thank you, Becca.
I wanted to put a plug in. And thank you, Becca, because Becca was called up to the plate at the last minute here to do the kind of the overview on the prevention. But I did want to put out there, we have 3 community coalitions in the county. Well, I don't lose my voice here, but and there are lots of opportunities to work with the coalitions. These coalitions are often recruiting community members. The expertise is just what you bring to the table in the sense of, I'm a parent. I have lived experiences. I'm interested in the youth. Okay. And a lot of this work is really trying to help the youth with not just mental health and drug misuse or use, but bullying and across the board kind of aspects. So I just want to put a plug. If you're interested in getting involved with your community and you're trying to find a place where you might want to land, definitely get a hold of our community coalition coordinators and have a discussion with them to see if that might be an area you'd be interested in.
Okay, Anna, you're up.
Oh, now I am up.
Yeah.
Okay. So good morning. My name is Annabelle Payne. I am the director here with Counseling Services and also serve the county as a county coordinator. I was just wanted to share a few things, but again, if anybody had questions, please just, I guess do the virtual raise your hand or chime in. So real quick, diversity, inclusion, equity, that's across the board, a lot of interest across the state, across the region, and certainly with our agency. One of the working assumptions that we have is that feeling safe and valued is an essential part of our mental health. So we have a couple different equity projects that are being worked on, not just with the agency, but also with what's called the Pend Oreille County Health Coalition. With our agency, with Counseling Services, one of the population that we're really interested in right now that we are working on is the LGBTQA. We know that there is a need in this county. And so I just want to put out there that we're moving forward with developing some focus groups, one directed towards youth and one directed to adults. We are working with Spectrum to get some consultation on how that should be put out there. But if you're interested in LGBTQA, please get a hold of our, get a hold of the counseling agency, get a hold of me, and let us know. And so as we roll some of these initiatives out, then we're going to have you on the list of, hey, is this something you'd be interested in knowing more about? Okay. Touch base real quickly, 1310. So if you're not aware of this, this is the legislator enacted House Bill 1310. It went into effect in May of this year. The purpose was basically to kind of address the excessive force and discriminatory kind of policing that a lot of people have expressed concerns about, and really was kind of focused on using de-escalation tactics. Okay. So there's good intent with this. First of all, I'm not sure. You can just indicate by raised hands who's aware of this. I know that Sheriff Blakesley has put in the newspaper his concerns about 1310 for those who've had an opportunity to read that. And I just wanted to follow up in case there was concerns about how this is playing out possibly in our county. And again, this is playing out across the state though, okay? But so again, good intention with some unintended negative consequences that are occurring right now. It's basically resulted in kind of inhibiting law enforcement to help or intervene with some of the behavioral health crisis responses that historically they have been able to assist mental health. At this point, with this particular statute, there's a lot that speaks to, there has to be an imminent threat, there has to be bodily injury, basic things that kind of put law enforcement in a place where we're not so sure that we can respond. Okay. Now, with that said, there's also a lot of questions about how it's being interpreted. And so the questions being put to our legislators, to the general attorney, clarification needs to happen here in order to really get a sense of, how are we supposed to move forward? In particular, how is law enforcement supposed to move forward? This is really important. Obviously, in our case, our crisis responders, sometimes we go out. There is sometimes a possibility for a potentially violent situation. And so we're not going to send a crisis responder out if we don't have law enforcement assistance. So this could preclude actually having a response. In Pend Oreille County, we've been pretty fortunate. Okay, law enforcement's doing everything they can to really provide the supports needed. Okay, but we also understand that this right now, where law enforcement stands, is they're really concerned about the increased personal liability. So they're being held personally accountable to criminal charges, to civil trials. They are concerned that they could have their certification suspended, so their livelihood suspended in a sense. So if there are concerns about how maybe a non-response or a limited response occurs, please let us know. I see Gail Kogel is on. She'll probably speak more about the ombuds. We are trying to figure out what is the best mechanism to make sure that the community, the families, the individuals, that their concerns are also being expressed to the legislators about how clarification is needed on this. Okay. Any questions on that or any additional comments? Since I have other people on here that could probably add to that. And I don't know who's all on the participant list, so I have a limited window here. Okay, so I'm thinking no questions. Becca, you'd let me know?
There's no questions on YouTube or in our chat.
Okay, thank you. Did want to touch base with, we have a tendency just called the 1/10 treatment tax. For those who are not aware, there's a statute, RCW 82-12-460, for those who actually like to look that stuff up. And this allows the county to collect a 1/10 of 1% mental health or chemical dependency sales tax. It's only for, use, it's a use sales tax. And it can only be used for chemical dependency or mental health programs or therapeutic courts that are new, in a sense, enhanced. So it cannot be subsidizing programs that are already paid for, in a sense. The county passed this tax in September of last year, okay? And this was where I'm sitting, this was a wonderful thing because it actually created some other opportunities for us. One of the opportunities it created was we were able to successfully pursue and receive an award, a Better Health Together criminal justice grant. That was about $350,000. And this is essentially seed money to really start working on some of the criminal justice and behavioral health initiatives. So we're in the beginning stages of that still. And the key, goals is really trying to get help to individuals who have behavioral health needs, who intersect with the criminal or involved with the criminal justice system. So we're looking at how do we help people who are in jail on site. Could we have a jail counselor? Okay. Could we have a mental health care coordinator, which we do have one now. The courts have Mr. Nichols, Jeff Nichols, who's acting as a part of his job duties is also to do some of that mental health care coordination. And that is really important just to kind of help with what are the individual's needs when it comes to all the other systems that play into with the jail. So the individual needs medications. They might have to see a doctor before they get discharged. Is there housing assistance? Do they need to have appointments set up with other providers in the community? This grant's also going to help us create more of a local cross-system data infrastructure in a sense. So we really can get a sense of what are truly the needs here and what's working and what's not working based on data. So hopefully it will just enhance that collective effort, and it will also hopefully kind of help us pursue other funding opportunities. Okay. With the passing of this treatment sales tax, the board of commissioners also endorsed the creation of a mental health chemical dependency advisory council. This is a fairly common practice throughout the counties that have established this treatment tax. So this council is going to serve as an advisory capacity regarding mental health and chemical dependency or substance use issues in the county, and they're going to make recommendations to the commissioners. So in a sense that we're going to review local needs, be part of strategic planning, take a look at the data, performance measures. The members right now represent kind of a cross section of behavioral health stakeholders in the county. The council is also very interested in having a representative who has lived experiences, okay, whether it's self or whether it's a family member. So we've put an advertisement out. It's on the county website. It's in the minor. Anyone who's interested in mental health and chemical dependency issues and wants to learn more about this and wants to be a champion, please take a look at or consider becoming a member of this council. For more information, I think there's an application process. You just kind of get a hold of, you can go to the county website, pull the application down from there, or you can get a hold of Crystal Ziski, 447-4119, I think is the phone number. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. Or get a hold of counseling services, get a hold of me, and we'll line you out. And again, the expertise is you don't have to have a credential behind your name. Okay. We're looking with someone with lived experiences who's comfortable sharing about their lived experiences, because that's part of what you're bringing to that is what you're bringing to the table. How does this actually impact me or my family members in this county? Okay. Any thoughts or questions on that? No, I don't think so.
I don't see any.
Okay. And I'm probably running right up to my 10 minutes there. So other thoughts I'll probably add on later, might tag along with other folks. So that's all I got for right now, rest of me.
Okay, thank you, Anna. So Jennifer, you are up now to talk about SUD and mental health.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm the clinical director with Pend Oreille County Counseling and kind of temporarily filling in as the crisis services manager as well while that position is vacant. So just to give kind of a quick summary of our services, we do provide both mental health and substance use outpatient services from intake or assessment through treatment. We provide services for all ages for Medicaid eligible individuals. We are fortunate in that we can serve non-Medicaid folks in our SUD program due to some other potential funding sources, kind of depending on income and circumstances. Probably primary update that we have right now is just this week, we've made the decision to go back to telehealth only as a response to local COVID surge and increasing cases and concern around here. We are hopeful that this is a temporary phase. We had, just for some background, we had gone to telehealth for a while. When COVID started, we were able to open back up, and we were doing a hybrid model of both telehealth and in person. Now shifting back to full telehealth, with the hopes to go back to some in-person option within the next couple of months as things kind of stabilize and improve around here. But we are working with our local partners, particularly the schools, to set them up with the equipment that they need in order to do Zoom sessions from the school. So they'll still have, particularly the kiddos, have face-to-face contact with their clinician by Zoom, so that we're not doing just over the phone, because we found, especially with the kids, that's not as helpful. Our SUD services have gone pretty well by telehealth. We have folks participating in their group sessions by Zoom. Our UAs are the one service that will continue to be on site. Can't really do those virtually. So we still will continue with those. And hopefully, be able to get back to a place of seeing folks in person, because we do recognize the benefit of that, but definitely we're grateful to be able to still serve folks by telehealth. We've brought in a couple of contracted telehealth providers as well that provide our intakes, and then our med management services. We're still onboarding that person. That's kind of another update from this year, as we've been without a prescriber for a lot of the year, and had to rely on our community partners, primary care providers, and utilizing some of our Spokane partners for the med management service, but hope to have somebody onboarded here within the next couple of months. And from there, I'll go into a crisis update. This year, we had a lot of challenges with our crisis team. We've, across all programs, really faced a lot of workforce shortages, particularly master's level clinicians, which generally have functioned as our designated crisis responders. Historically, our DCRs have also worked as clinicians during the day and kind of worked double duty. With workforce shortages, we really got to a point where we had to reduce our after hours ability, and we were not able to provide 24/7 crisis response. We were only providing crisis services during the day. But out of that came a great opportunity to completely revamp our crisis model and to get in some new funding in order to support kind of a standalone crisis team, so that we don't have our clinicians also then pulling after hours shift as DCRs. And we are now fully staffed and up and running with all of our after hours shifts full. We're in the process of onboarding our daytime person. And so we are back to full coverage, which is super exciting. And we know that it was quite a challenge for our community partners while we had that reduction, but we were fortunate to have folks working with us and giving us some grace while we sort of navigated that. So the moral of this story, our crisis services are back fully functional. So my message to the community would be, don't hesitate to contact us for crisis needs for individuals in the county, whether that's an enrolled client or not, or somebody even, sometimes we do hear from folks that are not actually within our county, because we are a border county here. We do sometimes see folks from Idaho who have come over into the Newport area, or sometimes folks in the Spokane region also that are more North County. They kind of hit our radar. So we are available and ready to respond to those calls. I think that's what I've got for my updates. Do I have any questions? I kind of dumped a lot quickly there.
I do not see any questions on YouTube or in our chat box.
Hi, Jennifer. It's Gail.
Gail.
Just a
Hi,
quick
Gail.
question. Hi. So question about your going back to full-time crisis response services. Do you think you see that you'll be able to maintain that for the foreseeable future? I know it's been really hard on a lot of our providers to be able to, with all the workforce shortages, maintain that. Do you see that as being able to be sustainable now for a while?
I do see that. Yes. I mean, of course, there are things that we just can't predict. But right now we do seem to have a pretty solid team, and we anticipate some longevity with our coverage. And we were fortunate that the recruitment for our after hours positions was, I guess, a little easier than some of our daytime positions, the clinician positions. So I'm hopeful that if we did have somebody leave, we would have some options for replacement. But for the foreseeable future, I see us sustaining the full-time coverage.
Kind of keeps it at home.
Yes.
Okay,
I think I'm going to put another plug in.
okay,
So historically in the rural areas, the workforce has always kind of been a challenge. I think most who work in rural know that. But the workforce shortage right now is unprecedented across the state, even across the nation. Okay. So there's just, and then of course, this has been exacerbated or exponentiated with the pandemic. I'm trying to remember my sources, but I know that the community behavioral health workforce, I've read that there's been 11% kind of an atrophy. It takes months. We've had some vacancies here that have gone over a year to fill. And again, because there's also certain qualifications you have to have for some of these positions, and that is part of the rub, part of the challenge there. We also are concerned that they call it the tsunami, the silver tsunami, what retirement is going to look like within the next 5 to 10 years. I read something recently that just the social workers alone were going to come up, almost 200,000 short come 2030. So my plug is please get the word out there. If you're interested in this line of work, if you think you've got this knack to, you want to be with people, you want to serve people, you want to help people, we would love to have folks to start coming in and saying, how do I learn more about this? Is this a career pathway? A lot of partners are working at the state level to try to create more of a pipeline, and working with the universities and the colleges to create that pipeline. So even feedback with why I wouldn't get into this career pathway, even that would be helpful. Thanks.
okay. Thank you, Anna and Jennifer. So now we're going to begin our presentations. I'll do mine first, and then we have Amanda from NAMI here. Hi, Amanda. And then Gail and Kara are here to present for Ombudsman. So Becca, if you want to bring mine up. Last year, I did a presentation during our forum on self-care during COVID. And when I started prepping for this presentation, I was going to call it recovery after the pandemic, because we were kind of in the middle of opening things up and we were feeling like everything was getting back to normal. And then there was a shift. So I changed it to recovery within the pandemic. And before I begin, I just want to say a disclaimer that I'm not minimizing the overwhelming tragedies that happened and trauma and loss that happened that COVID had on people's lives. I want to showcase the good things that happened. There were lots of good things, positive things, and it's more about self-care and taking care of each other and ourselves. So, and this PowerPoint was not created to start a debate or take a position on either side. It's just the importance of taking care of ourselves. Okay, Becca.
I just want to make sure it looks right. I have a lot of things going on my computer.
It does. It looks great. I can see the whole thing. So common feelings and behaviors experienced before, during, and within the presence of restrictions being lifted. But then, however, I didn't change that part, because mid-August, we got more restrictions and mandates. So we're feeling all of these things all the time, mixed feelings and beliefs about COVID, anger, trying to make sense of this new normal. What is normal anymore? Increased domestic violence and use of alcohol, and increased mental health concerns. It has a huge impact. Okay, next. So being resilient, a resilient recovery. The word of the year is probably resilience, not just at the individual level, but every social tier. In dark and distressing times, human mankind can really pull through to show its good side. So it's important to look at what we can do to make things better in the middle of the chaos. Is finding the blessings in the chaos. Next. So while COVID turned our lives upside down, some positive things did happen. The abundance of creativity. Distilleries used the resources to produce hand sanitizer instead of alcohol. Automakers made ventilators. We found creative ways to celebrate holidays, graduations, and birthday parties and weddings. Not ideal because we couldn't be close with each other, but we made it happen. And musicians provided concerts over virtual platforms or their balconies or rooftops, however they could spread their music and caring of people. A new appreciation of fun activities and being outdoors. Puzzles and board games became cool again. Children and their parents are communicating as never before. For some people, less screen time allowed for families to interact with each other. More time was spent outdoors, hiking, camping, picnics, biking, unplugged in favor of nature. And people cooked more or learned to cook, including the kids. Next. So what we learned in the last 12 months is the importance of family, that we can adapt, that we can learn new skills and started new hobbies, got more creative, that unplugging from phones, tablets was not such a bad thing, and being outside was a very, very good thing. The use of telehealth across the healthcare system. For some of this is great, maybe not so much for others. For our agency, it was good because of a lot of people have transportation issues and it was hard for them to get to us. So being able to have access to a virtual platform was very helpful in them being able to use us as a resource. The importance of self-care and washing hands is vital to keeping germs at bay. And we learned that this pandemic forced all of us humans on every level that changes have to take place for today for a healthier tomorrow. Next. I found this really interesting, what kids learned about COVID. They are grateful for being with family and they're not going to take their health or loved ones for granted. They learned new hobbies, made videos, learned to cook. They realized that change happens and people adapt and become stronger. Some felt uncomfortable, sad, and weird. One 12-year-old described 2020 as unimaginable, unfathomable, and unforgettable. Some felt they matured, learned virtues of compassion, patience, hard work, selflessness, dedication, all the great qualities. Some took online learning to a whole new level and now want to do something to help make the world a better place. Next. The 5 and 6-year-olds spent a lot of time looking at how much fun they were having. They were sad when centers closed. They couldn't do any activities like horseback riding, swimming, gymnastics. One 5-year-old decided he was ready to get to the vaccine so he could make new friends and go to the stores with mommy and daddy. And one 11-year-old blamed the Avengers. They took the Infinity Stone, altered the flow of time, and turned the world upside down. I think that explains everything. Despite the hardships we have all endured and will continue to endure for some time, there are lessons to be learned from our pandemic experiences. Next. Lessons we can all learn. The COVID pandemic changed life as we know it. It may have changed us individually as we know it, from our morning routines to life goals and priorities. Telehealth and Zoom meetings might be a new normal. We need to take mental health seriously. The rise in domestic violence, depression, isolation, grief over loss, increase of substance use to COVID was staggering. Let's break the stigma. And community is essential. It's in our DNA to connect with other humans. COVID made us aware of how much we need our family and friends, and we got very creative on how we stayed connected. Next. So take care of yourself. Resiliency is based on compassion for ourselves as well as compassion for others. Sharon Salzberg. Get your vitamin D. That's great for your immune system. Get sunshine. You need the vitamin D more during the winter months like October to March because the sun isn't that strong and you could stand in it all day long and not get what you need from that. So you have to get those vitamin D from other sources. Social media. Use your social media to promote positive and hopeful messages. Help others if you are able. It boosts our spirits and makes us feel good. Exercise, keep moving. Housework is considered exercise as far as I'm concerned. You're moving a lot. Simple things like keeping routines, good hygiene, nutrition are needed for good mental health. Know when it's time to take a break. Good, healthy boundaries are needed to protect yourself and others. Count your blessings and be grateful. Connect with nature. Be less judgmental and more understanding. Enjoy life, discover yourself, and become healthier. And most of all, just breathe. Well, when it's not too smoky. It's getting better out there. Next. So what does SAMHSA, NAMI, and National Institute of Mental Health say? So, for SAMHSA, tips for managing stress during COVID. Again, take a time away from media, focus on the things that you can do and know that and understand what you cannot do. Let that go. Talk to family and friends. You can still stay connected. Pay attention to your body. Recognize the early signs of stress and take the time to renew your spirit through meditation, prayer, or help others in need, whatever that looks like for you. Techniques like yoga, breathe, play a game, or play with a pet, listen to music, or take a walk are some examples. For NAMI, is there a right way to worry about coronavirus? Acknowledge your anxiety, schedule worrying, reframe the situation, get moving, help others, physical distancing, not social distancing, mindful walking, breathing, and eating. The National Institute of Mental Health has a great way to handle stress. I love the acronym: grateful, relaxation, exercise, acknowledge, and track your thinking. They kind of all say the same thing. Just take care of yourself. Next. So just to note, the pandemic has forced us to rethink about how we live our lives. COVID has shown us how resilient and adaptable humans as a society are when forced to change. And I found this on Facebook. I thought it was pretty good. In the rush to return to normal, use this time to consider which parts of normal are worth rushing back to. So it's kind of made us open up ourselves up and look at exactly what we're doing and how healthy is it, and is it good for our change. Next. This is just a list of resources that are good to look at, to learn about COVID and what you can do and how you can take care of your mental health. Next. And references on some information from my PowerPoint and more resources. Next, I think that's it. Thank you. Any questions before we move on? So now we have Amanda from NAMI to do her presentation.
Hello. Yes.
And Becca will make you the host.
Yes. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Make it so I can see everybody's faces. Go. All right. So like Bessie May said, my name is Amanda. I'm the Programs and Outreach Coordinator for NAMI Spokane. And I'm really glad to have the opportunity to be here with all of you today. I've not been a part of one of these before. I just started in this position actually in April. So I'm really excited to hear about what else is going on in your community. First, I want to share just a little bit about what NAMI is, because I know not everyone has heard of us. I had not heard of NAMI or NAMI, whichever way you prefer to say it, until I started looking for nonprofit work in the area. So we are a grassroots nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the lives of individuals, excuse me, dedicated to improving the lives of individuals and families who are affected by mental health conditions. To do this, we focus on support, education, and advocacy to provide a voice for those affected by mental health and help empower them to use their voice. We strive to end discrimination and to overcome stigma and work towards these goals in large part through our programming, which we'll talk about in some more detail in just a couple slides. Our education programs and our support groups and our advocacy are offered at no cost to participants, and they're all peer-led by someone who's walked a similar path. This allows our community members to have a safe space to share their experiences and to give and receive guidance on navigating an increasingly complex, it seems, mental health system, especially right now during all of our struggles with COVID. As I mentioned, at NAMI, we use a peer-based model. So this means all of our programming and our support groups are peer-led, and everyone involved in our programming has personal lived experience with their mental health or with the mental health of a family member, or often both. It is important to note, especially since we have lots of other people here who are licensed mental health professionals. We at NAMI, we are not licensed mental health professionals. We aren't psychiatrists. We aren't social workers. We're experts in our experiences with mental health conditions, which, as I said, is what we call the lived experience. And not only do all of our facilitators and our presenters have this lived experience that they bring to the table, they also go through an application and screening and training process in order to be able to run a program. Using this model helps us to create a safe, welcoming, and understanding place for all of our participants to have open and honest discussions and actually talk about what they're going through without the fear of judgment. Because of this model, it's also important to note that we do have an expectation of confidentiality, regardless of the fact that we are not mental health professionals. We expect our volunteers and our participants and everyone we deal with to maintain confidentiality, except for in cases where there's a safety concern. Like I said, this extends to all of those that we work with and just really helps to make sure that people feel comfortable and safe to talk to our facilitators and to our staff about what they're going through. It's for this reason that we don't allow people to observe or audit any of our courses or support groups if they're not an active participant in it. So now let's get into what we're here for, the programming that we offer at NAMI Spokane. There are a couple of programs that NAMI, the national organization, has available that we just don't have the capacity to offer here in Spokane yet. We do have a lot that we offer. And right now, I will also say all of our programming is virtual through Zoom. We hope to be able to do some more in-person or hybrid programming in 2022, but we just don't have a concrete date for that yet. We'll continue to update on our Facebook and our website and whatnot about that as we learn more. As I mentioned earlier, our educational courses and support groups are offered at no cost to participants. And program participants must be 18 years or older. We do have one program that is an exception to that, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So let's look at our educational courses first. We have 3 different types of educational courses. We have our NAMI Basics on Demand. So this is a free 6-week course for parents, guardians, and other family caregivers who provide care for youth. And here youth means 22 years or younger who are experiencing mental health symptoms. This is online and is a self-paced course that gives caregivers the information and resources they need to be more effective caregivers and make the best decisions possible for the child in their care. It also helps them to cope with the traumatic impact that a mental health condition can have on the entire family while giving them that community of support. Our Family to Family class is a free 8-week course for family members, significant others, and friends of people with mental health conditions. This course facilitates better understanding of mental health conditions, coping skills, and treatment, and empowers participants to become advocates for their family members. Our other educational courses are peer-to-peer course, very similar to our family-to-family course and structure. Again, it's a free 8-week course but this time it's for adults with mental health conditions, not for those with a loved one with a mental health condition. And that's not to say that there's not overlap there. We definitely have people who have taken both courses because it's what is helpful and relevant for their experience. Our peer-to-peer class is designed to encourage growth, healing, and recovery among our participants by offering a safe place to share their stories and offering a space for them to learn and enhance their communication skills and set a vision and goals for the future and for recovery. The basics course is, as I said, available on demand online. You can find access to that on our website. The family to family class and the peer to peer class, we schedule. We're in the process of scheduling a peer to peer class to start in October. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to me. I will put my email in the chat. And let me know, and I can put you on the wait list. It looks like we're not going to be able to schedule a family to family class this October, but again, if you're interested, let me know, because we will be scheduling more of both of these classes in 2022. And I've heard really wonderful feedback from people who have gone through those courses. So in addition to those courses, we also offer support groups. These are running continually, and you're welcome to pop into any that are relevant to what you're looking for. We have two different types of support groups that we do. Our first is our connection support group, which is really just a confusing way of saying peer support group. And this is a support group for any adult who has experienced symptoms of a mental health condition. And the support group participants will gain insight from hearing the challenges and successes of others. And again, these groups are led by state-trained leaders who've been in a similar situation. We currently have 2 peer connection support groups going, and an additional peer support group going that is for young adults. And you can find information from that on our website. And then we also currently have 1 family support group running also on our website, and we're working on getting 1 or 2 more of those running in 2022. And our family support group is, again, a peer-led support group for any adult with a loved one who has experienced symptoms of a mental health condition. So let's take a look at the last chunk of programming that we offer, which is our presentations. These presentations we give throughout the community and can be requested through our website, or again, by getting in touch with me and letting me know that this is what you're looking for, or that you're looking to get involved and you don't know what you want to do. I definitely get those emails as well, and I'm always happy to help guide people. The first presentation we have is our In Our Own Voice presentation. This is for the general public to help promote awareness of mental health conditions and recovery. The presentation aims to change the attitudes, assumptions, and stereotypes about people with mental health conditions. And aiming to change attitudes, assumptions, and stereotypes of mental health conditions is something that we really strive to do at NAMI. Our In Our Own Voice presenters tell their stories living with mental health conditions and working through recovery in order to help reduce the stigma around the topic of mental health by showing that it's possible and common to live well with a mental health condition. Our other presentation has a couple more pieces to it. It's our Ending the Silence presentation. This presentation actually encompasses 3 different presentations called Ending the Silence for Students. This one is designed for middle and high school students. This is our only exception to the 18 years or older rule. We do go into middle and high schools and give these presentations to teach students about what mental health is, what some of those warning signs can look like for a mental health condition or for suicide, and what to do if you're seeing those, and talking to students about how they can end the stigma for themselves and for other people and work to be more inclusive with mental health. We also have the Ending the Silence for Families, which is designed for parents or guardians of middle or high school students. And we have Ending the Silence for Staff, which is designed for school staff. We actually have an Ending the Silence for Staff presentation coming up on the 30th. And if you're interested in joining into that to see what the presentation is, please feel free to check out our Facebook, and the link is there. You're welcome to register and join us. It's really informative on what mental health is and what those warning signs are. Each of these presentations comprises 2 parts, the lead presenter and a young adult presenter. Our lead presenter guides the audience through slides learning about mental health and those warning signs and how to reduce stigma, as I mentioned before. And then the young presenter tells us their story of living with mental health and the challenges and successes that they've faced throughout their journey and where they hope to go in the future, and trying to leave our audience with a message of hope and that recovery is possible. So now that I've kind of given you an overview of all of our courses, there are a lot of different ways you can get involved with NAMI. You can take a course if you're interested in the family to family course or peer to peer, as I said, please let me know. And I will get you on our list so that whenever we do have a course set up, you will be contacted. Attend a support group. If you're looking for support for yourself or a family member, feel free to join any of the support groups we offer that fit your needs. You can find those on our website. You can also find support groups through the NAMI Washington website. Because we're all virtual right now, NAMI Washington has support groups offered throughout local affiliates throughout Washington. So if you're a resident in Pend Oreille, you can join a support group in Lewis County in Western Washington if it's on a time and a day that works with your schedule. So that is one of the benefits we've seen from being pushed into this virtual space. Also, if you're connected with a school or a community organization, consider requesting an Ending the Silence or In Our Own Voice presentation. And then volunteer. We're always looking to expand the programming we can offer our community. And to do this, we need more trained facilitators. So if you have a passion for mental health and you feel like you're in a place where you're comfortable talking about your experiences, please feel free to reach out to me and I can answer any questions you have there. So I know I threw a lot of information at you. So if anybody has any questions, please let me know. Yes.
Couple questions. So I heard you say that we could schedule presentations. So is the curriculum similar to, sorry, blanking here, a mental health first aid?
Do you know, I don't have the experience in the curriculum for mental health first aid, so I couldn't make an accurate comparison.
Okay, fair enough. But I did hear you say that, so we might have some interest in having some presentations with the different schools possibly.
Yeah.
So we would just contact you, and then that sounds like it might be more accommodating because each school is going to have a different timetable that they'd like to work from.
Yeah, you can either email me directly or connect me with them, and I'm happy to email directly with them and figure it out. There's also a request form on our website. If people want to request a presentation, they can fill that out with some details as well. Either of those ways is fine. I'm happy to share the information if people just email me directly as well. But yeah, we're very excited to get the programming into more and more schools. So I would love to make those connections, especially in more rural areas.
We appreciate that. And you said that, so I thought that was really interesting that you could be in a support group that's in a completely different county, like miles and miles away. So is there a calendar or a schedule on the website?
Let me stop sharing my screen and I will put, is it all right if I put a couple of links in the chat? Okay, so I will put the links to the our calendar where you can find access to our support groups. And then in order to access all those other ones throughout Washington that I mentioned, you can find them at namiwashington.org at that link right there. And just read the description of it. If it sounds like it's a good fit for you, follow the Zoom registration. It'll send you a confirmation and join in. And like I said, it doesn't have to be Spokane if the FRs don't work for you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Those were great questions.
Thank you, Amanda. That was very informative. So now we have Gail and Kara to present for the Ombudsman.
And actually, if you could make Kara a host, I believe she can. She's our PowerPoint expert at this point in time.
Okay.
All
And I
right.
just want to let you know there was no questions on YouTube for you, Amanda. But I'll keep a lookout for that.
Okay, just a second here. Okay, there's like the Zoom thing is like blocking. Oh, here we go. All right. So I'm Kara Reedy. I'm Behavioral Health Ombuds along with Gail, and just want to thank you for inviting us to this. And Rusty, I really appreciate how you introduced this forum as a chance to get feedback from the community for the purposes of improving services. That's definitely been an ongoing goal of the Ombuds, to continue eliciting feedback from the individuals we work with and facilitate, that communication with providers regarding services and improvements. And so it's great to see that your organization is providing that forum to do that and is proactive about it.
And I would like to say thank you as well for inviting us. And it was great to listen to the other presentations. I really enjoyed yours, Rusty, May, and Amanda's, and well, all of you talking about what's going on. It's been very helpful.
Yes, definitely. So just some background about the our behavioral health service. We are part of the Spokane Regional Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization, which was formed as a result of the switch to fully integrated managed care. Our current Ombud service has been around since 2019, and we are a contracted provider with the BHASO. So you can see the Spokane region that we serve is 6 counties. Pend Oreille County is one of them. We currently work with AmeriGroup, Coordinated Care, Community Health Plan of Washington, and Molina as a part of our region. So one of the main roles of the behavioral health ombuds, we are here to support individuals in expressing their concerns with their services. We are not involved in the personnel issues of an agency. We can't force an agency to take any specific actions. Sometimes folks will contact us and they'll be very upset and they'll want somebody fired. That's not something that we can do, but we're here to support the individual in expressing their concerns in an appropriate manner. We help individuals with conflict resolution. We advocate for that individual, for their voice to be heard. Oh,
And I would just like, I was just going to say, I'd just like to say that the Ombuds service has been legislated since the 80s, and sometime in the 80s, and I believe. So it wasn't just something that started in January 2019. It's when we had the change to integrated managed care that Kara and I and then Kara became Ombuds for our 6-county region of care.
Yeah, thank you, Gail. I was having a hard time explaining that. Yeah, so there are ombuds in our state who have decades of experience as an ombuds. It's just this current iteration that Gail and I are a part of. So we provide education to individuals about their rights. A lot of times folks are not aware of specifically what they're entitled to ask from their provider. Frequently we will get folks who disagree with something that might be in their record, so we can educate them that they are allowed to insert a statement of disagreement into their record. We help individuals understand how to advocate for themselves. We set up meetings and negotiations with providers, but the goal is always to resolve issues at the lowest level possible. Ultimately, we're here to be an asset for providers and the community. And so we want to get things solved as low a level as possible to avoid, unnecessary paperwork or conflict that might arise.
That's very well said. We do, and a lot of what we do is provide information and referral to other sources of information or referral to other services. It's not uncommon for us to get a call and someone wants to get enrolled in services. Obviously, we do not provide therapeutic mental health or behavioral health services, but we can perhaps give them information about how to access that, where to go for more information. And also if they have a specific, there are other ombudsmen and ombuds that are also in the state, such as for Developmental Disabilities Administration, for Department of Corrections, for Child Protective Services. There are, and also of course, long-term care. So depending on what their concerns are, we will refer them to that particular person. We track grievance data. We provide reports out to not only our Behavioral Health Advisory Board, but also out to community partners, especially whenever they ask for it. I just like to say that I did come to this position in January of 2019, but prior to that, for 11 years, I worked first for the Regional Support Network and then for the Behavioral Health Organization, as it morphed from the RSN as the grievance manager, grievance systems manager. And some of you may know me from that. And so I've been doing this work for a long time, and it's been thrilling to have this other role to order to be able to do. We do make recommendations based on trends that we see in reports. We try to track data as far as demographics are concerned, where people are calling us from, what area. We also do provide input and information to the Spokane Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization, which for those of you who knew about the BHO before, that's what the BHASO was at that time. They were the Medicaid managed care behavioral health payer. We also help people with creating mental health advanced directives. And I'm excited that there's been some recent legislation regarding mental health advanced directives, and we'll touch on that in here in just another slide.
And to go back to what Annabelle was describing earlier about the House Bill 1310, you know, one of the things that we can do when we track information and we make recommendations is, you know, in the case of House Bill 1310, if you are experiencing lack of follow-up, lack of services, let us know. We can certainly track that. You know, we're not going to be able to solve the situation, but that's something where we can be a resource. The more feedback that the state that the state's receiving about that, I think the better. So certainly you can refer folks to us about that. And also, if anyone is interested in serving on the Behavioral Health Advisory Board, they are always looking for representatives from Pend Oreille, Stevens, Lincoln County. So anyone with lived experience, anyone's a current user of services, they are always looking for individuals. So just wanted to give that plug for them. So as we receive calls from folks describing issues that they have with services, typically they fall into specific categories. And Gail is very knowledgeable about this. Gail, are these categories outlined in Medicaid grievance policies? I don't remember exactly. Like, they come from
They've been around for a long time.
Yeah, okay.
And part of the reporting process for many years. It's not in any legislation. It comes from a way to categorize, and so that we can report out and we can get a sense of what is happening with somebody. For example, I think many of us know about dignity and respect, but it's such a broad category. As you can see, and that's in the second column at the top, you know, it's regarding courtesy or a tone of voice, or, you know, how any kind of treatment that's seen as disrespectful. That's pretty broad. But, you know, you can also take a look at, so it's to just say that most people are calling us for that reason. That's really not accurate. They sometimes people have a problem with being able to get their services, or they feel that such as an access, or maybe they're having a difficulty with a cultural barrier, not burial. Sorry about that. So that would be quality or the appropriateness of the services. Sometimes it's just, they're not calling me back. And we know that this is also exacerbated during our workforce shortages. And it's all of our behavioral health providers are under tremendous pressure to be able to be as responsive as they can to get people in who need services. In some cases, there's going to be a wait list. So we would definitely take that into consideration. Sometimes people feel that they don't have a voice, that their voice is not being heard in their treatment. So, for example, wasn't too long ago that somebody contacted us that was receiving substance use disorder services, and the person felt that they had no say so in their treatment plan, that their voice wasn't considered, that they really, it was kind of just pushed on them. So we helped, in this case, we helped advise him of ways that he might advocate to be able to do that more effectively. And we certainly would have been available to him to work with that provider to see if there would be a way that they could open for more of his voice to be included in the treatment planning. So those are kind of the examples of some things we do. Next slide.
Yes, definitely. And yeah, I agree with the currently the workforce shortage has impacted, you know, those type of access related grievances that we're receiving. And I know, you know, from listening to the ombuds in other parts of the state, they're experiencing that too. And, you know, one of the roles of the ombuds also, you know, is advocating, but it's also facilitating a resolution for both parties. So sometimes an agency just is not able to provide a specific staff member to that person just because of workforce shortages. So we can be there kind of as that asset to communicate and facilitate like what sort of resolution will be best with the limitations that we currently are experiencing. So another note here on crisis services, we get a lot of calls from individuals who are involuntarily detained and they disagree that they've been involuntarily detained. We cannot affect that legal process of involuntary detainment. We cannot change an evaluation that's been done. However, we can assist people. This is a really good place where we can assist people with understanding their rights, understanding what that process is going to look like when they are detained. And if they feel that there are issues within the facility that they've been detained in, we can assist with that. But try to make that note to folks, you know, that we can't affect their detainment. And with the physicians' medications issue, one thing that came up this summer was one facility, for example, was switching to a new medication provider. And so we got a lot of calls related to medication. Once we communicated that with the facility, they were able to see what was going on and you know, make some changes and make some communication changes with their new provider. So anything else on this slide, Gail?
Well, violation of confidentiality, and I saw that Annabelle made a mention of that, but that is true. If you feel that your protected health information, your personal information has been disclosed without your permission, please, that's another reason that people can get a hold of us. We do want to, there are some situations where that information is legally being shared out of an abundance of concern for the safety of someone else. But that isn't happening as often as far as people that are calling us as we might think. And we do have other categories that we report out of, but these are some of our more common. And sometimes it's just other violation of rights that these are not categories. So we will just, like, for example, not following an advance directive, not including their cultural background into their treatment planning. Or I had a case where someone actually ended up pursuing it on their own, but felt that they were mandated to participate in a certain amount of treatment but they're also undergoing chemo treatments for cancer. And they felt that this was not being supported, that they were being marked down for not attending mandated groups when they were indeed very, very ill from the chemo. So this was something that the person grabbed some advice from us and then went ahead and we hope resolved it on their own. But this is one where it's another kind of an other situation. But you know, if you have a question about something, just give us a call.
Yes, definitely. So I touched on earlier resolutions and trying to come to a resolution that is resolved to everyone's satisfaction. That is the, you know, ideal. Things don't always happen that way. People see things from different perspectives. But ultimately, you know, we try to get that conciliation resolution. Sometimes, unfortunately, just the resolution that's offered is not to that individual's satisfaction. And, you know, sometimes that's because there's a law in place, there's a statute in place, there's a policy, agency policy in place, but we try to discuss that with the individual. We try to, you know, de-escalate and use conflict resolution skills so that when we do discuss things that aren't, that are tough for someone to hear, that we're coming from a place where they still feel that they're being heard. Sometimes we are working with someone and they stop communicating with us. Ultimately, you know, it's their choice. They drive the pursuit of the grievance, but, you know, we do try to get some follow-up from folks. And then frequently what happens too is just information referral. Sometimes someone will call us and it's not quite enough to where it could be, we could proceed with a grievance, but we just tell them about, for example, maybe there's a WAC in place, an RCW in place that we can educate them about, and that satisfies them about what their concern might be, or they might need a referral to a service that is more at the level that they need. I'm trying to think of some examples, Gail. I know we have a million.
Well, for example, I think when we're advising someone that they can actually insert their statement into the record if they disagree with it.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
That was considered information and referral because it's not a grievance. There wasn't an action that the agency took. And we all should know that once the record is the record, you can't change it, but you can insert a comment. So, and the other category is sometimes you just need that category because it's just that oddball that falls off and we have no other way to do it, but we try not to have that. And I'd like to say one more factor on the not pursued. Sometimes the person decides emotionally they just don't want to continue to go through it. They've gone through part of it. And this is, you have to recognize too, that for some people, you got to remember too, and we all are aware that traditionally people that have been involved in with serious mental illness and have been in services for a long time, there is this kind of learned helplessness, or I hate to use that phrase, but there is a kind of a feel like I'm just resigned to this. This is what I have to do to get through it. And they're just not ready to take that next step into building their own self-advocacy and their own strengths. But we are always available. And if they have an issue that they'd like to come back and pick up on later in the future, there is no statute of limitations. Agencies are required to keep records for 10 years. Last I knew, there was still statute in our state that there was no time limit. But if you don't have a record, then you don't have a record. So there's not much you can do beyond that. So, but that's all I'll say about that.
Oh, do you want to do the slide, Gail?
Sure, I'll do this because we want to make sure that the individual, that you know that the individual drives the process. We do not insert any of our own statements, our feelings, our opinions in anything that they are trying to pursue. We might not even agree with what their actions are that they want to take. But we do feel the obligation very strongly that we need to have their voice needs to be heard. If they want to use Ombuds services to do that, then that's what we're here for. We understand too that conflict resolution is a learned skill. We all are learning every day throughout the rest of our lives how to deal with some form of conflict We're not always the most successful at it, but every time we go through something, we learn a little bit more. We'd also feel that it's a sign of a really healthy system when people feel that they can have a voice about what's concerning them. To shut the door, to not listen to them is not a good, healthy, robust system of care. And also we say that if we don't know what's not working, we don't know how to make it better. We do use written tools when somebody contacts us, unless they are in an inpatient facility. We will get their concerns down on writing. They approve the letter, we send it to the provider, then they have some time to respond, and they do, and we can facilitate a meeting if we need to. Sometimes things are just fixed really quickly, and then we have a resolution, and it's a little bit better for everybody. I just think that it's a good way to get it writing. With that way, we have it as a point of reference. I think it is a healthy way to do that. So next slide.
So we already really touched on this slide with the grievance categories. A grievance is, we use the term grievances, we use the terms issues and kind of interchangeably. Or a concern, we use that word as well. We try not to always use the word grievance because it can be kind of a loaded term in behavioral health or the medical field, but it's an expression of dissatisfaction about any matter. We went through those grievance categories, but just know as you work with folks or if you are utilizing services yourself, you can contact us at any point in that grievance appeal or appeal process. If it needs to go to the administrative hearing, we can assist with that as well. So if you've already filed something with an agency, but you want some extra support, you want that things in writing, like Gail said, you can always call us. If you have a question about something or a concern, if you're working with someone who might have an issue with another agency and you have questions, feel free to call us. So as Gail said, there was some legislation this last year that has changed a little bit about how the Mental Health Advance Directive is going to be reviewed in cases of crisis. So designated crisis responders now must make a good faith attempt to check to see if a person has a mental health advance directive. So those are going to be a legal document that informs others about treatment wants and desires in mental health services. So where this can be really useful is if you were to go into crisis, it will list preferences for medication. It will list an individual to contact to make sure your rent is taken care of, what will happen to your pets, other obligations that you might have. The law does state that it should be followed in the fullest extent possible. There are some exceptions to that we'll go over. The ombuds can assist with creating this document. So if you have any individuals who are interested in this, if you yourself are interested in this, you can call us for more information. I think it will be interesting to see how this new legislation might affect our services, because we do get a lot of calls from individuals who have been involuntarily detained who disagree with medications that they've been given. They've been given medications that they've had bad reactions to in the past, or they are concerned that they weren't being listened to while they're being detained. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, what, how frequently this will come up and, how often it might change our services.
How are we doing for time? I'd like to ask. Are we going over time?
I believe you're good, right, Rusty? They're the last presentation. You're muted.
Okay, well.
Yeah, you're okay. You're the
Okay.
last presentation, so before we go to feedback, so.
Okay, Kara.
Yeah, so these are just some cases for where that mental health advanced directive might not be followed by a provider. So if the person is involuntarily detained and the requests that are in their directive might be inconsistent with the purposes of their commitment, if compliance might endanger the individual's life, if what they're requesting of their advanced directive might be out of scope of practice or would violate established standards of care. So do you have anything else to add on that section, Gail?
I don't. I know in some parts of the state, once an inpatient facility knows that a person has an advanced directive and the person is involuntarily detained, then sometimes, I'm not aware of it happening on this side of the state, but sometimes on the west side, it's just summarily dismissed because they can't follow it. And I know that some ombuds have frustration about that, but I, for one, am very strongly advocating for if somebody is trying to tell you that I need to have my rent paid and this is going to cause me a lot of anxiety, I am worried about my dog, I need you to talk to me in my face because I'm hard of hearing and I need to read your lips. These are things that need to be put there. And I think that, Annabelle has a comment that that her children were not to automatically go to her mother, but another family member. This was important and very helpful information.
Mm-hmm.
That is really, really good. So if you can have those things spelled out ahead of time. Right now we have a problem with a repository. Where are these stored? And if we can get that information to the psychiatric facility in a good amount of time. With the advancement, I think it's going to be the 988 number or the whatever, I can't probably misspeak. There's talk about a potential to have a repository there for people's executed mental health advanced directives. Okay, I get on a soapbox periodically.
Yeah, go for it. I was having a hard time advancing the slide for some reason. So, so as I said before, please contact us with questions. We have a toll-free number for, out of area phone calls. We have a secured email for individuals to email us confidentially. And we have our own Zoom account. We can facilitate meetings that way. We can facilitate meetings in person. We try to be accommodating for people's needs.
And that wraps it up.
Yep. Okay, hold on. There we go.
Any questions? Good comments, Annabelle, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're done.
Doesn't look like there's any comments on YouTube.
Oh, someone has a question?
So is there, so you are separate, your behavioral health ombud. Is there medical ombuds? Are they in your office or are they totally separate?
I wish there was medical ombuds.
Oh, there's not.
No, and we get so many calls from people who have like hospital issues, like Sacred Heart hospital issues or Deaconess. No, we're behavioral.
Well, I was wondering because you were talking about the advanced directive. Now you're speaking on a behavioral or a mental health advanced directive. That's a total separate thing than a medical advanced directive.
Yes, I didn't specify that. So thank you for asking. Yeah, it's totally separate. It's not as official. I will say that as a medical one. It is in the law that it should be followed. But it is separate. It is strictly about preferences for mental health care in the case of crisis.
Think of the medical advanced directive as an end of life decision.
Yeah.
Package. It's a tool for end of life. For us, it's a tool for people who are detained and put into involuntary, sometimes voluntary treatment. Also, it could be for someone who's in stabilization. There's a lot more move to put more stabilization units across our state to help lessen the trauma of being detained and being put into an involuntary situation. But yeah, so you think of it as a psychiatric advance directive, and that's what it's called in much of the rest of the country. In our state, it's called mental health advance directive. And with the new legislation, they are re-adding, I believe people are enrolled in substance use disorder services back into those who are able to execute a mental health advance directive. So if you go back to one, we'll send you our slides. And so the RCW that governs the advance directive, then we could actually say that you can go to that RCW and read through it. And I think it's 71.32, I think.
It is.
Okay.
I wrote it down.
Good. So you'll see the current legislation, new legislation, and for anybody who used to look at that webpage, there was a really prohibitive form that was required to be used. I went and looked at the website for the RCW just yesterday, and that form has disappeared. So if there's going to be a replacement form, a guidance form, I guess that's yet to be seen. The other one had to be filled out in its entirety, even though some of the pieces of that form didn't apply to the person. It can get very confusing. It was almost like filling out an application to buy something almost. I mean, it just had so many things on it. So, but that's what we're here for. We did a 3-point PowerPoint that is currently on the website that has Ombuds Services for Spokane County Administrative Services Organization. And then you can also look at that PowerPoint that we put together. Also, and it hasn't been changed yet because we were waiting for things to get finalized. But if that will help with more information, then please go there. And if you have more questions, and we're happy to zoom in and talk to any of the people enrolled in your services, to a group of people that would like to have us speak to them, especially people enrolled in services who have been or are eligible for services. We have been around primarily for Medicaid, but we will listen to anybody who has an issue with their behavioral health services if it's something that we can help with.
Thank you for clarifying that for me.
You're welcome.
No problem. I know I keep saying to Gail, there needs to be a medical ombuds and there needs to be a housing ombuds.
Yes. It's, the only way we know of is a patient advocate at hospitals. They may or may not be responsive. Every hospital, any hospital or facility that accepts federal funding, Medicaid or Medicare, has to have a grievance system. Sometimes you can't tell how to access it, but they are required by federal law to have a grievance system. So if you know, if it's specifically hospitals do, they should have it easily obtainable from the websites. But Kara and I know from looking at some recently, and that's not just for the Spokane medical region proper, but it's across our state, that it's really hard to find the route to get your medical concerns addressed. So thank you for those great questions. We really appreciate it. And thank you for having us. We do. We like to get out and speak with people. Not everybody knows about what it is that we do or specifically what we do. So we added a few more slides to our old PowerPoint to kind of help and flesh that out. So I hope it wasn't too long. And if you have feedback about it, please send that to us and we'd be happy to get into a conversation.
We appreciate you coming on and sharing that information. I can't speak for all providers, but for our agency, Ombuds has been an outstanding resource, and it's just really kind of helped some situations that just needed someone outside of the agency to come in and kind of get a different perspective of what's going on.
We are that neutral person. That's what we try to be, that neutral, keep things kind of calmer entity there. That's what we try to do.
I think you're on mute.
Okay, here we go. Thank you, Amanda, for presenting that, NAMI, is what I said, unmute. So this is something that we all think about in mental health. So you can share if you want to in the chat box or say, what are some things that we can do to break the stigma of mental health? That's always a big thing that keeps people from coming into counseling, or, I say talk about it more, but anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. Now we're at the end where we're opening up the forum to feedback. So if you have anything to share about what we can do better or what needs are in the community, this is the time to do it.
And that includes even for the forum too. What subjects would be more relevant to make this community forum helpful for folks? And if you're like me, these kind of questions you like to percolate on, so you might not actually have an answer right now. So Rusty May, what's the vehicle if somebody wants to give us feedback after the forum?
Email?
Okay. To?
I can put my email in there.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess I could answer your, I hope it wasn't a rhetorical question about reducing stigma, and give some of my thoughts on that. I think I have a lot of experience in my own family with individuals who have been diagnosed with serious mental illness. And one of the big parts of stigma for them was that the idea that if you've been diagnosed with serious mental illness, you can't also be a productive member of society. You can't have a job, you can't work. We value, in our society, we value what you do to work is a big part of your identity. And I think that was a big struggle for one particular individual in my family. So, the more we can do to support people in what it means to be a productive member of society, what it means to have an identity as a person who can contribute in the ways that you can. And it doesn't necessarily mean being a CEO of a company or, having a high achieving job. Or if somebody does want to work, how do we support them in a way that they're successful and that they can get meaning in their life. So that's just some of my thoughts from my own experience about stigma that I always try to bring up to people. Like, how do we define and how do we support people with finding meaning in their life and stuff.
Yeah. Thank you.
I've always found it interesting. I think I've shared this before. You just don't know who, right? It's far more normal than many assume. Okay. And I sit there and I get pretty excited sometimes. Abraham Lincoln's one of those historical figures I like to read about because this guy had some serious depression. He was on suicidal watch. Okay. And yet, look at the legacy he left.
Yeah.
I've really appreciated in the last decade or so, probably more and more celebrities and public figures being open and honest about their addiction or their mental health, or that they're in therapy, or, other experiences that they have that, you don't necessarily assume. And so it really does kind of emphasize that, like, mental illness, addiction can hit anybody, and it's a part of everybody's world in some way. And I think that's been a really powerful message.
Yeah, it was very admirable for was it Gabby, the Olympic gymnast who stepped down for mental health reasons, and she made it very public about it. And I think that was huge. That sent a huge positive message about it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to have issues but work through them and step down and take a step back when you need to. It's okay.
Simone Biles too, I think, was another one.
Yeah, that's who I meant to say, Simone Biles. Yeah. Silence.
It looks like there's nothing on the YouTube page, right, for
Okay.
right now either, so.
Okay.
Rusty May, can I, before you go into closing, because it's actually, and that's why I put it in the chat prematurely, because all of a sudden it popped in my head, the Department of Health, their disaster strike team, some of their thoughts that they've been sharing in their podcasts. And there's some good information on this website if folks are interested. But just kind of summarizing and tagging on to what Rusty May had shared in her presentation, you know, we know that when our brain is stressed, it just doesn't perceive information as well as when it's not stressed or overly tired, right? So we're kind of seeing this right now with COVID and the political vitriol, kind of in a sense, that we have a tendency to probably react a little more negatively than maybe we normally would have over things in the past that was neutral. You know, this sense of impatience, a sense of I cannot tolerate you having an opinion, in a sense. And so then moving, as Rusty May had said, quickly to anger. You know, I'm waiting in line, and somehow I think you are cutting in front of me, and we're going straight to anger. Okay, and again, you know, that brain has a tendency to kind of move into that tunnel vision and not be very solution focused sometimes, unless you're literally one of those trained professionals. That is what you do. Your brain is trained to react in emergency situations. So, you know, in the clinical world, we have a tendency, we call that emotional dysregulation. And these are just this hyper reactivity, our feelings. And again, as Rusty May had noted in her presentation, we really do need to do that positive self-care, acknowledge, accept these are normal feelings, but we still have to move on, right? And just really focusing on what we can control and reframing and intentionally making it a habit to see those positives. And I think there's a kind of a mantra that's out there right now about how we have to be kind to ourselves. And just as importantly, we have to intentionally, mindfully be kind to others.
Yep. People's minds have gone offline.
Yeah.
Call it. So, okay, well, we are coming to a close. I want to thank all of you for joining us today here on Zoom and YouTube. I want to thank Kelly and Becca and their tech expertise, and Garrett from IT was standing by in case we had issues, but we did a lot of testing for this. Becca and I did. And so I'm just all very grateful for them. So we're having another forum at 4. So if you know anybody that wasn't able to attend this one, we have another one at 4, and we have canceled the in-person. Well, no one had called to set their place because we asked them to call and reserve. So, but due to the recent COVID restrictions, we're not having the in-person. So it'll just be Zoom and YouTube. So, okay. Thank you all for, go ahead, Anna.
The random drawing thing.
Oh, yeah. Did anybody put their name in, Becca? Nobody wants a raffle?
Amanda, Gail, and Cara did.
That makes the odds pretty good. I think we could probably handle 2. So let's just say winners, everybody.
Yeah. Okay. All right, everyone. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.